When words reveal what hearts conceal. Dr. Sarah Chen had spent 15 years studying the precise moment when love begins to die. Not the dramatic explosions of infidelity or abuse that capture headlines, but the subtle linguistic shifts that precede relationship dissolution by months, sometimes years. Her research laboratory at Stanford University contained thousands of recorded conversations between couples, each transcript meticulously coded for patterns that most people never consciously notice. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday morning in October, when Sarah discovered that certain verbal markers could predict relationship failure with 87% accuracy. The implications were staggering. She was not merely studying communication patterns. She was decoding the early warning system of human connection itself. Sarah's methodology combined forensic linguistics with relationship psychology, analyzing speech patterns, word choice, and conversational dynamics to identify what she termed dissolution markers. These linguistic indicators appeared in couples' communication months before conscious awareness of relationship problems emerged. Her work revealed that the brain processes emotional disconnection through language long before the heart acknowledges the loss. The first case that validated her research involved Michael and Jennifer Harrison, a couple married for 12 years who sought counseling for what they described as growing apart. During their initial session, Sarah recorded their conversation while they discussed routine topics, such as work schedules and household responsibilities. The transcript revealed a pattern she had identified in dozens of failing relationships: the gradual replacement of inclusive pronouns with individual ones. "I need to pick up groceries after work," Jennifer had said, where she previously would have said, "We need groceries." Michael responded with, "I'll probably work late again," rather than, "We should plan dinner around my schedule." These seemingly insignificant shifts reflected a fundamental change in how each partner conceptualized their shared life. They were unconsciously linguistic markers of emotional withdrawal. Sarah's analysis extended beyond pronoun usage to encompass what she called temporal displacement patterns. Couples in healthy relationships naturally synchronize their language around shared future plans, using phrases like, "when we go to Italy next summer," or "after we renovate the kitchen." Couples experiencing dissolution began speaking about future events in individual terms, or avoided future-focused language entirely. The shift indicated that partners were unconsciously removing each other from their projected life narratives. The second major pattern Sarah identified involved emotional validation frequency. Healthy couples maintain consistent rates of acknowledgement phrases, such as "that makes sense," "I understand your perspective," or "that must have been difficult." Couples approaching dissolution showed dramatic decreases in these validation markers, often replacing them with neutral responses or silence. The absence of emotional validation in conversation preceded the absence of emotional connection in the relationship. Jennifer Harrison's case illustrated this pattern clearly. During her fifth session, Sarah played back recordings from the couple's first appointment alongside their most recent conversation. The difference was unmistakable. In early recordings, Michael responded to Jennifer's concerns with phrases like, "I can see why that would be stressful," or "that sounds really challenging." By the fifth session, his responses had become perfunctory acknowledgments such as "okay" or "right." The third critical pattern involved what Sarah termed conflict avoidance linguistics. Contrary to popular belief, couples who argued frequently were not necessarily headed for dissolution. Instead, couples who stopped engaging in substantive disagreement showed higher rates of relationship failure. Sarah discovered that healthy couples use specific linguistic structures during conflict that maintain connection even during disagreement. These couples employed what Sarah called repair attempts during arguments, using phrases that acknowledge the partner's perspective while maintaining their own position. Statements like, "I understand you see it differently, but I feel," or "that's a valid point, and I'm also concerned about," demonstrated ongoing emotional investment in the relationship despite temporary disagreement. Couples approaching dissolution showed different conflict patterns. They either escalated arguments using absolute language such as "you always" or "you never," or they withdrew from conflict entirely, responded to disagreement with phrases like "whatever works for you" or "I don't really care." Both patterns indicated emotional disengagement from the relationship's outcome. Sarah's research gained national attention when she presented her findings at the American Psychological Association conference. Her presentation, titled Predictive Linguistics in Relationship Psychology, demonstrated how computer algorithms could analyze conversation transcripts and identify dissolution markers with remarkable accuracy. The implications for couples therapy were revolutionary. Traditional relationship counseling focused on helping couples communicate more effectively after problems were already acknowledged. Sarah's research suggested intervention could begin much earlier, when linguistic patterns indicated emotional disconnection, but before conscious awareness of relationship problems emerged. This early intervention model could potentially prevent relationship dissolution rather than merely managing its aftermath. The fourth pattern Sarah identified proved the most complex to analyze. She called it narrative coherence disruption. Healthy couples maintain consistent stories about their relationship history, referring to shared experiences with similar emotional valence and factual consistency. Couples experiencing dissolution began telling different versions of their shared history, emphasizing different details or interpreting identical events through contradictory emotional frameworks. During one session, Michael Harrison described their wedding day as the best day of our lives, while Jennifer, in a separate interview, characterized the same event as stressful but beautiful. These divergent narratives indicated that the couple was unconsciously rewriting their relationship story, preparing psychologically for its conclusion. Sarah's work attracted criticism from colleagues who argued that linguistic analysis oversimplified the complexity of human relationships. Dr. Robert Martinez from UCLA's Psychology Department published a response paper suggesting that correlation between language patterns and relationship outcomes did not establish causation. He questioned whether changing language patterns caused relationship problems or merely reflected underlying issues that would manifest regardless of intervention. Sarah acknowledged these concerns while maintaining that her research provided valuable diagnostic tools for relationship counseling. She compared linguistic analysis to medical diagnostic tests that identify disease markers before symptoms appear. Early detection allowed for preventive treatment, potentially altering the disease trajectory before irreversible damage occurred. The fifth pattern in Sarah's research involved emotional labor distribution linguistics. She discovered that couples in healthy relationships shared emotional labor through balanced patterns of support seeking and support providing language. Partners took turns being vulnerable and offering comfort, creating linguistic reciprocity that strengthened their emotional bond. Couples approaching dissolution showed imbalanced emotional labor patterns. One partner consistently used support-seeking language while the other provided support, or both partners stopped engaging in emotional labor entirely. Sarah found that these imbalances predicted relationship failure independent of other factors, such as income, education, or family history. The breakthrough case that validated Sarah's intervention model involved David and Maria Santos, a couple whose linguistic patterns indicated high dissolution risk despite their own assessment that their relationship was stable. Sarah's analysis revealed significant increases in individual pronouns, decreased emotional validation, and emerging narrative coherence disruption. Rather than waiting for the couple to develop conscious awareness of relationship problems, Sarah designed an intervention based on linguistic pattern modification. She taught David and Maria to monitor their own language use, increasing inclusive pronoun frequency and emotional validation markers. The couple practiced repair attempts during minor disagreements and worked to maintain consistent narratives about their relationship history. 6 months after the intervention began, David and Maria's linguistic patterns had returned to healthy relationship norms. More significantly, their reported relationship satisfaction increased substantially. They described feeling more connected and communicative, unaware that they had been at high risk for dissolution when treatment began. Sarah's intervention model faced ethical challenges from the psychology community. Critics argued that analyzing couples' language without their full understanding of the implications violated informed consent principles. Some suggested that knowledge of dissolution risk could become self-fulfilling prophecy, causing relationship problems rather than preventing them. Sarah addressed these concerns by developing transparent consent protocols that fully explained her analysis methods and their implications. She also conducted control studies comparing couples who received linguistic pattern feedback with those who received traditional relationship counseling. The results consistently favored the linguistic intervention model. The 6 patterns Sarah identified involved future orientation linguistics. Couples in healthy relationships maintain consistent use of future-focused language that included both partners. They spoke about shared goals, planned experiences, and mutual aspirations using inclusive language that reinforced their ongoing commitment to the relationship. Couples approaching dissolution showed declining future orientation, either avoiding future-focused conversation entirely or speaking about future plans in individual terms. This pattern often emerged 6 to 12 months before couples consciously acknowledge relationship problems, making it a particularly valuable early warning indicator. Sarah's research expanded to include cultural and demographic variables that influence linguistic patterns. She discovered that dissolution markers varied across cultural backgrounds, socioeconomic levels, and educational attainment. These findings led to the development of culturally sensitive diagnostic criteria that accounted for communication style differences while maintaining predictive accuracy. The 7th and final pattern involved appreciation expression frequency. Healthy couples maintain consistent rates of gratitude expression, regularly acknowledging each other's contributions to the relationship and household. This appreciation language served multiple functions, reinforcing positive behavior, maintaining emotional connection, and building resilience against relationship stress. Couples approaching dissolution showed dramatic decreases in appreciation expression, often going weeks without acknowledging each other's efforts. Sarah found that restoration of appreciation language was among the most effective intervention strategies, often producing rapid improvements in relationship satisfaction. Sarah's personal life became complicated when she began analyzing her own relationship with Dr. James Liu, a fellow researcher at Stanford. Their conversation showed several dissolution markers, including decreased emotional validation and increasing individual pronoun usage. The discovery forced Sarah to confront whether her research was merely academic exercise or a practical tool for improving human connection. The decision to apply her intervention methods to her own relationship proved challenging. Sarah and James struggled with the artificial nature of consciously modifying their communication patterns, questioning whether genuine intimacy could emerge from calculated linguistic choices. Their experience revealed the complex relationship between authentic communication and strategic language use. Over several months, Sarah and James discovered that conscious attention to linguistic patterns increased their awareness of each other's emotional needs without diminishing the authenticity of their connection. They learned to use Sarah's research as a diagnostic tool, rather than a rigid prescription, allowing natural communication to emerge within a framework of increased mindfulness. Sarah's work culminated in the publication of The Language of Connection, Predicting and Preventing Relationship Dissolution Through Linguistic Analysis. The book became required reading in graduate psychology programs and established linguistic relationship analysis as a legitimate field of study. Her research methods were adopted by relationship counselors internationally, transforming how mental health professionals approach couples therapy. The implications of Sarah's research extended beyond individual relationships to broader social understanding of human connection. Her work demonstrated that language patterns reflected deeper psychological processes, suggesting that attention to communication could improve not only intimate relationships, but also workplace dynamics, family relationships, and community connections. Sarah's laboratory continued analyzing conversation patterns, expanding to include digital communication, cross-cultural relationship dynamics, and the impact of social media on linguistic intimacy patterns. Each new study reinforced her fundamental finding that language revealed the health of human connections months before conscious awareness of relationship status emerged. The story of Sarah's research illustrated how scientific inquiry could illuminate the subtle mechanisms of human love, providing tools for preserving and strengthening the connections that give life meaning. Her work proved that the language of connection was not merely metaphorical, but literal, measurable, and ultimately modifiable. Dr. Sarah Chen had dedicated her career to understanding when love begins to die. Instead, she discovered how to recognize when it was still alive but struggling, creating the possibility of intervention before irreversible damage occurred. Her research transformed relationship psychology from reactive treatment to preventive care, offering hope to couples who might otherwise lose each other to patterns they never consciously recognized. The language of connection, Sarah learned, was both the symptom and the cure. By teaching people to listen not just to what their partner said, but how they said it, She provided tools for maintaining the delicate linguistic ecosystem that sustained human love. Her work proved that relationships, like languages themselves, were living systems that could be nurtured, protected, and restored through conscious attention to the words that built the bridges between hearts.